So, episode 5 of Twin Star, it was not a bad episode. In fact, this right here was like probably one of the best ones, especially that we've seen in like recent weeks. But I will say that one weak point, in my opinion, it was that the animation was a bit sloppy in like certain scenes, because that right there you could like definitely tell. But this episode starts out where we have Arima. He was assigning one of the 12 guardians to go to Narakumi. Hopefully I'm saying that right, but pretty much we already know that the Kagure, they are popping up all over Japan for the most part, but in this one little town, like they are increasing at an alarming rate. And not only that, there are also been reports of some unusual, very strong ones. And so now the Guardian he was like going to send there was Simon or Shimon, whatever way you want to say, but apparently this right here was the Guardian who was most fitted for that. And we see now that Arima, really wanted to send him. And so we see how he was like warning him about the Kagure, and not to mention he was also going to tell him about the Twin Stars, because we all know that they know there. But of course he knows their names because Arima did mention them, I believe, like at the end of episode 2, I think that was. But then we have Rukuro, who went to go check on Ryugo, and we see now how this guy's like messed up. He has like a broken arm or broken leg, and we see now how he had these bandages around his head. So this guy definitely will be out the picture for quite a while. But it was definitely nice to see him and Rukuro, like come together like this. And we see now how Rukuro like definitely, like you can tell how Rukuro definitely wanted to say sorry for how he was acting, because we saw him bring like this bag of like snacks, and we see now how Ryugo kind of like played up the whole thing, saying how they were family. But when Rukuro actually got home now, we see how Benio and the other two, they were like watching her make these talismans, and these right here were like perfect, and you can definitely see like the spell power that was like behind them. But when Ryuguro came, they were all watching him, and then we had Benio asking him if he wanted to like try it as well. But when he did it, like they were so horrible and so sloppy, and they were so horrible and sloppy. There was like no power at all in them. But then we see that while they were like making fun of him, these Kagures were like popping up, and we see now how was a lot of them, because I believe that the old guy said that there was like 20 of them. And so now when they went to the area, to go check it out, we see now that the Kagure was like attacking the school, and we see how they pulled, like the soccer team into the Mangano. And so now we see that when they went there, you just see these kids, they were like scared out their mind. And we see now how Rukuro, he actually didn't use his arm for the first time, and that right there was somewhat surprising, because we see how one of the Kagures had like grabbed this kid, and so Rukuro, charged in like a madman and gave him this shoulder tackle, and that right there caught me off guard, because I thought maybe he would like bring out the arm and just take him out, with his punches, but no. But then we see now that even though he has saved this one kid, he still had all the other ones to like worry about, and that right there is where we have Benio coming in, using her speed to like take them out. But of course, there was still a lot of them that were like popping out the woodwork. And so then we have, Rukuro trying to use this one spell, like this air, fissure bullet. And we see now the first time he tried it, he actually failed because he did not use a talisman. And so I'm guessing, because we definitely like saw this back during his sparring match with Benio, and we see that time he had the power, of his arm. So I'm guessing that when he does use his arm, he definitely doesn't have to use talismans. And also, it was definitely nice how we learned how Ryugo was like making these talismans for Rukuro because back when like they were in that van, they actually gave him a belt that was like full of them, and we learned now how Ryugo was like doing this, like all this time. So that right there was nice because Ryugo, he definitely knew or he never to believe in that Rukuro would come back to being an exorcist one day. So that right there was nice. And so we see now that while they were like dealing with these Kagure, because obviously Benio and Rukuro, they could definitely handle them, they were telling the other two to like take these kids and get out of here. But then we see how these Kagure had like popped up from the ground and they actually attacked them. And now this right here is what I find a little bit confusing, because at the same time, this right here is probably more on the part of the studio, failing with the animation, because we see these two, get attacked, and then we see how one of them, actually got hurt to the point where we saw blood coming up, like from his mouth, and we saw that, in front of the kids. And then we see now that when they both got up, but when they got up, none of them were like really hurt. And so now we see that when they got up, they actually, let those kids get out while they stayed behind. But then we see how, one of them, but then we see that while the kids were escaping, we have Rukuro who had let his guard down, because he was like definitely happy that that they were able to escape. But then we see that right there allowed a Kagure to actually, grab him. So obviously now things weren't looking that good, but then we see like some kind of spiritish weapon, like actually attacked this Kagure, and I thought that right there might actually kill him, but no. Like all you see is this big Kagure just like fall into the school building, but then we see him, get right back up. And so obviously that weapon or talisman, that right there had belonged to Simon. And so now when like he appeared, we just see all these Kagures, kind of like bum rushing him and pretty much surrounding him. And so we see how he used this very special talisman, because he called it a Guardian Master Talisman. And we see now that when he used it on this sword, that already looked cool enough and made that even cooler. I gotta say, so far, I'm like digging his powers, because we see now how he made like this awesome sword, and we see him now stabbing the ground, and that right there just made this fire. And I will say that they could have done a better job animating that, because the fire, like think about it on the scale, that fire seemed kind of puny, but at the same time, it was like taking out these Kagure, like almost instantly. So at the same time, like I said, the animation was probably like the animation was the only part of the episode that I felt like was definitely weak in a sense. But we see now how we took out all these Kagure, and then we see now, Benio was like shocked to see him, and we see now that that him and Rukuro, they already don't get along, and we see now that when he is looking for Rukuro, he was definitely kind of bummed to see that it was the one who was like so rude to him. But then we see out of nowhere how he like sucker punches him, and that right there, I was like kind of confused as to why he did that. But pretty much he was like calling Rukuro out, saying, why you here, because letting down your guard, that right there, is a fatal disgrace, for an exorcist. And so now we see that one of the Kagure, who was like a monkey, type, because like most of them did take on, animal forms, but the monkey or baboon or apes, those were the most prominent ones out of this group. We see now how one was like going around, eating, other Kagure, so that way it can become stronger. And we see now how it became bigger, more violent, and we see now that even his teeth became, like much more sharper. And we see now that when it made this shockwave, we have Benio, we have Simon, and we have Rukuro. They were like able to dodge, but then we have the other two who are like pretty much fodder, because they always, just get like taken out like it's nothing. like those two got hurt, and that right there made Rukuro, kind of lose it, because we see now how the Guardian, he was like going to take it out, but we have Rukuro so pissed. We see him now using his power for the first time in the episode, and that right there was awesome, because we see that, Benio was saying how even though, Rukuro has like all these flaws, because we have Simon saying how much be horrible, having someone like him as a twin star. She was saying how even though with like all the flaws that he does have, he is like far from weak. And we see that when him and the Kagure fists had collided, obviously he had won that encounter, because we saw the Kagure was like now purified. And so we see and we see like there was someone, watching Rukuro, and it's obvious, who it is, because for some reason they made the opening, spoil so much. And so that guy has to be the one who has survived that night that made Rukuro, want to quit being an exorcist. And apparently, this guy had lost an eye, or it is possible that like maybe he is just maybe he is just using something, to just cover it. But apparently this guy has like a blue arm, just like how Rukuro has a red one. So I do wonder when a friend will make a move. And for some reason I can't believe this guy, could be the one that's like possibly making, these Kagure, stronger, because to me that right there seems like way too much for like some kid, because him and Rukuro have to be like the same age. So to me, like, I don't know why he's like taking on this villain role, but I don't think he's like our main villain for the series. But regardless, now where we have Simon picking up on this, on his presence, he was like going to check it out. But then we have Arima calling him, telling him to come back, because that right there, like something happened. Like there was some kind of an emergency, and now he had to go back ASAP. And so we see now that when he was like leaving, we had Rukuro trying to stop him, because obviously he had wanted to talk to him. But we see that apparently that after using those talismans for that bullet, and of course using power over his arm, that right there had like took all of his strength, and we see him now following. But then we have these kids, thanking him, because obviously Rukuro did, save them all with his like recklessness. And so now where we have Simon going back, like Arima only called him because some idol that he likes did some kind of like swimsuit, like a swimsuit shoot, and apparently he had wanted, Simon to like look at the magazine with him. And to me, that right there was stupid. Of course, that right there was a comedy, but at the same time, we just had, a very serious episode. And we even see now a major villain kind of, appear. I don't get why they would like want to ruin that with this cheesy comedy, because that right there was completely unnecessary. So at the same time, Arma definitely kind of annoyed me with that stunt. And we even have, Simon turn him down anyway. So to me, it seemed like it was a waste. But apparently he was like going to go back. And we see now how Arima told him he didn't have to, because what Arima's real objective was, it was to put in some motivation for them, because obviously, this guy's like real young, like right now he is 16, but 2 years ago when he was 14, that's when he became a guardian. And so now, so now even though Rukuro doesn't, like him, he can definitely respect him, and that right there will like definitely, make him bounce back, and possibly, that right there will possibly make him become, that right there will make him become, an exorcist once more, because now, this episode was like, that right there was like the beginning, because obviously, like, beforehand he never would have went with them, and now he is. And also I do wonder, when will he get like his own uniform, or maybe from the picture that we see as the promo art for the series, when will these two get their black uniforms? Because we all know that Benio was like rocking the uniform that we see, Ruguro and the other ones, weren't so far. But pretty much the episode ended, where they were arguing, and we see now that Jisama's granddaughter, the girl with the blonde and green hair, apparently her and Benio will get close next week because they're gonna have like some kind of party apparently because they were there with the title. So hopefully that right there won't be completely, like kind of like fillerish. Hopefully we can get some good progress with the story. But overall, this right here was a good ep. Like I said, the only downside of it was the animation. So overall, it was like very enjoyable. But don't forget to like and subscribe, and please let me know what you guys thought. But as always, you guys take it easy. I will see you all next time.